I'm going to cover the installation of the Ubuntu client now. First of all, it's the same process of adding any other virtual machine. I'm gonna run it pretty fast as well, but the difference will be in the installation process, which is a Linux machine. It's a bit different. See, I select Linux, it goes to Ubuntu. I'm gonna select the location of the disk, give it the normal name. In terms of resources, I'm gonna give it 2 cores, the same as all the other clients. In terms of memory, it defaults to 2 gigs. I'm gonna give it 1.5 just to make sure I'm a bit more stringent on resources. I'm going to use bridge networking the same as everything else. I'm going to leave the default settings for the concept of the networking and the disk, and then I'm going to give it 40 gigs of disk because I'm going to use a bit more stuff on it, and I'm going to store it in a single file, very similar to before. Next, finish, and then we start with the next process of installing it. Once I boot the machine, it starts empty. I'm going to use the same approach of going to the settings, going to the network, the CD drive. I'm going to select the ISO file, which is sitting on the same location. And once I select it, I'm going to reboot the machine, and it's going to load from the Ubuntu. The Linux installation process is a bit different than the Windows one. Obviously, they are very separate and different operating systems, but the experience itself is pretty straightforward. I'm going to cover a few of the topics to more depth, and we'll take it from there. Once the wizard boots up, it does a few things differently than Windows. First of all, it does give you much greater flexibility during the installation process. So in the first screen that you get after the installation is loading up, you can select to either try it and then it runs on the live disk, or install it, which is what we're going to do. Select the language. We're going to start with the install, and then you can see the default keyboard layout. I'm going to leave it at the default of English. In terms of the installation, you can go with normal, you can go with minimal. I recommend going with normal just because you get the more robust experience with all the other tools and things that you need. Third-party software for graphic and all of those things, I will add it as well. Ubuntu does a pretty good job of detecting where it exists and downloading all the things that it needs to do in order for it to be operating functionally. Erase disk and install Ubuntu means that we're basically going to create a fresh, clean install of Ubuntu on the virtual disk. I would keep it that way. There's really no reason to specify the other things unless you're doing something a bit more advanced, like installing multi-boot, like doing some tests with encrypting of the operating system, doing all kinds of things that are related to advanced stuff. But for the purposes of the lab, we can go with the default. The process here is basically to write the changes to disk, which means to actually perform the installation. So it gives you the information that you're going to format the disk that it found, and it's going to do what it's supposed to do. So we're going to continue, and once it does the calculation, it's going to basically move forward from the installation and give you a few other settings related to location. We can just keep the default. So now I need to specify the machine username and password. So I'm going to just go with user1. I'm going to name the machine Ubuntu client 1. Gonna give it the password, and we're good to go. So moving forward, now it's going to do the actual installation. You can see if you click on this little window at the bottom, you're able to see what it does on the CLI level. Very interesting, but the resolution doesn't really offer much at the moment because we don't have the VMware tool installed, so it's going to be running like this. So the next step with Ubuntu, once it finishes the installation, is to restart. I click the restart button and I'll continue once it's booted. So as you can see, once it reboots, it goes to the login screen of user 1, which is the user I've created during the installation process. I specify the credentials, and we're good to go. We're going to be basically in Ubuntu in seconds. So once we're logged into the Ubuntu machine, as you can see, we're still with this small interface with the lower resolution, and it's basically because we haven't installed the VMware tools yet. The process is a bit different than the Windows counterparts, but the same idea. You click on install VMware tools. It loads the VMware tools to the drive. So you're able to see it, it's going to be mounted like VMware Tools. Often it will pop up as a screen and adds an icon to your desktop. But in general, there is this gzip file. You'll open the gzip file. This is the gzip file opened. And then in terminal, you just need to run the command to install. So you can do sudo and then the install path of VMware install PL, and specify the password, and basically just do yes, give enters for every question, and then yes, and then basically you can click and enter, and it does the installation with the default settings. What it does tell you for multiple yeses that you need to specify is that you have better options with Ubuntu in terms of every Linux distribution. You can just choose to get the installation tools using the apt-get command, apt-get install VMware tools, or something of that nature. I'll write the command just so you'll have it handy, but in general, this is the out-of-the-box experience, so it works just the same. It's not maybe the latest and greatest, but as you can see, the resolution is cleared up, and we'll have the similar settings and capabilities of VMware tools available here, including the shared folders if you would like. And I'm gonna not create the share at this stage, but this is something that you have out of the box as well.